What would you do if your husband served you divorce papers at your anniversary dinner while you were bleeding out, 5 months pregnant with twins? But that's not even the worst part, because 8 months later, when he thought she was broken, destroyed, erased from existence, she walked back into his billion-dollar empire wearing a disguise he never saw through. By the time he realized who she was, it was too late. The cameras were rolling, the FBI was waiting, and his perfect life about to shatter in front of 50,000 people. This is the story of Claire Morrison, the woman they underestimated, the wife they threw away, and the mother who became a ghost to haunt the men who buried her alive. Buckle up, because what she did next will leave you speechless. The rain hadn't started yet, but Claire Morrison could feel it coming. She stood in her Manhattan penthouse, 5 months pregnant with twins, arranging candles on the dining table she'd set for their 6th anniversary. The pearl necklace Ryan gave her on their wedding day caught the light as she moved, and she touched it absently, a habit when she was nervous. Outside, Central Park stretched below like a dark ocean, the trees swaying in the wind that promised a storm. Inside, everything was perfect. The lasagna, Ryan's favorite, the recipe she'd spent 3 years perfecting, sat warming in the oven. The wine glasses gleamed. The jazz playlist they danced to at their wedding played softly through the sound system. Even the lighting was right, that golden hour glow that made their penthouse look like something from a magazine. Claire adjusted a candle, then readjusted it. Her hands were shaking slightly, though she told herself it was just pregnancy hormones. Ryan had been distant lately, working late, taking calls in other rooms, coming home smelling like perfume that wasn't hers. But tonight would fix that. Tonight they'd reconnect. Remember why they'd fallen in love in the first place. Her phone buzzed on the marble counter. Another text from Ryan. Running late. Start without me. She'd heard that before. She'd heard it a lot actually, but tonight was different. Tonight was their anniversary. 6 years of marriage. Nearly 8 years together. He wouldn't miss this. Would he? The doorbell rang at 7:15, and Claire's heart lifted. Maybe he'd come home early after all, forgotten his keys in his rush to surprise her. Maybe tonight really would be different. But when she opened the door, it was Jessica Barrett standing there, holding a bottle of expensive wine and wearing that smile Claire had known since their freshman year at Boston University. Surprise, Jessica said, breezing past her into the apartment like she owned the place. Figured you could use some company while you wait for the workaholic. Claire laughed, but something felt off. Jessica moved through the apartment with too much familiarity, knew where the wine glasses were without asking, poured herself a generous amount, while Claire watched with her hand on her belly, unable to drink. The gesture felt almost cruel, though Claire immediately felt guilty for thinking it. 6 years, Jessica said, picking up the framed wedding photo from the mantel. Her perfectly manicured fingers traced the edge of the frame. Feels like yesterday we were planning your wedding. You in that gorgeous dress, me making sure every detail was perfect. Remember how stressed you were about the flowers? You made it perfect, Claire said, meaning it. I couldn't have done it without you. You've always been there for me, Jess, through everything. Jessica's smile flickered just for a second, but Claire caught it. A strange expression crossed her best friend's face, something that looked almost like pain, or rage, or both before the warm mask slid back into place. Before Claire could ask what was wrong, Jessica's designer purse tipped over, spilling its contents across the expensive marble floor. Oh, damn it, Jessica muttered, and they both bent to help pick things up. That's when Claire saw it, an ultrasound photo, the black and white image unmistakable. The date stamped in the corner was 4 months ago. Claire's breath caught. Jessica, are you pregnant? Jessica snatched the photo back faster than necessary, laughing too loud. Oh, that. Yeah, it's for my new boyfriend. Surprise. Didn't want to steal your thunder tonight. You know, with your anniversary and everything. Claire pulled her into a hug, genuinely excited despite the strange way Jessica had reacted. That's amazing. Why didn't you tell me sooner? We tell each other everything. I know. I just wanted to be sure first. Jessica's voice was muffled against Claire's shoulder. But when Claire pulled back, she saw something in her friend's eyes that made her stomach twist. Something cold. Something that didn't match the warmth in her voice at all. Over Jessica's shoulder, Claire caught their reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows. Jessica's face, turned away from Claire, but visible in the glass, wore an expression of such pure calculation that Claire felt a chill run down her spine. Then Jessica turned, and the expression was gone, replaced by that familiar warm smile. "So where is Ryan, anyway?" Jessica asked, taking another long sip of wine. "Don't tell me he's actually going to miss your anniversary dinner." "He texted, running late. Work stuff." Claire heard how hollow her own voice sounded. How many times had she made excuses for him? To her friends, to his mother, to herself? "Work stuff," Jessica repeated, and something in her tone made Claire look up sharply. But Jessica was just smiling, refilling her wine glass, moving through Claire's kitchen like she'd done 1,000 times before. They'd met at Boston University, randomly assigned as roommates freshman year. Claire from a middle-class family in Ohio, working 2 jobs to pay for school. Jessica from old money Connecticut, the kind of wealth that whispered instead of shouted. They shouldn't have been friends, but somehow they were. Late-night study sessions turned into shared dreams. Jessica had been there for every milestone, every breakup, every triumph, every failure, including the tech conference in their senior year where Jessica had introduced Claire to Ryan Morrison, where Claire's whole life had changed in a single conversation. Had Jessica known even then what would happen? Had she planned it? The thought was crazy. Claire shook it off. The key turned in the lock at 8:30. Claire's homemade lasagna had gone cold on the table, but she stood up anyway, smoothing her dress over her pregnant belly. The blue dress Ryan had always loved, though she'd noticed lately that he barely looked at her when she wore it. Ryan walked in, and he wasn't alone. 3 lawyers in expensive suits that probably cost more than Claire's monthly grocery budget. 2 board members from Morrison Tech that Claire recognized from company parties where she'd stood by Ryan's side, smiling for photos, playing the perfect CEO's wife. They filed in behind him like an execution squad, and Claire's heart began to hammer against her ribs so hard she thought she might pass out. "Ryan?" Her voice came out small, childlike. "What's happening? Is the company okay? Is something wrong with the IPO?" Ryan Morrison, her husband of 6 years, the father of the twins growing inside her, the man she'd supported through every late night, in every crisis, and every triumph, looked at her with the same expression he used in board meetings when he was about to fire someone. Cold, detached, efficient, like she was a problem to be solved, not a person he'd promised to love forever. "Sit down, Claire," he said, his voice flat and businesslike. "This won't take long." They rearranged her anniversary dinner into a conference with pushed her carefully arranged plates like a trash, like the hours she'd spent cooking meant nothing, like their 6 years together meant nothing. One of the lawyers, an older man with silver hair and dead eyes, slid a stack of papers across the table toward her. The sound of paper on wood seemed impossibly loud in the sudden silence. "I'm filing for divorce, effective immediately," Ryan said, and the words came out smooth and practiced, like he'd rehearsed them, like he'd been planning this. "You'll sign tonight. My lawyers have prepared a settlement. Nothing unreasonable." The words didn't make sense. They couldn't make sense. Claire looked at the papers, at Ryan, at the board members who still couldn't meet her eyes, at the lawyers who looked at her like she was already gone. "What? Ryan, this is insane. We're having twins. Your babies. Our babies. We're supposed to be celebrating our anniversary. We're done." His voice was flat, final. "You'll get a settlement, enough to start over. It's fair, Claire. More than fair, actually." "Fair." The word came out strangled. "How is any of this fair? What did I do? What happened? Just talk to me, please. We can fix this. Whatever it is, we can." The door opened again. Jessica walked in, but everything about her was different. She wasn't walking in as a friend coming to support Claire. She walked to Ryan's side of the table, sat down next to him with the confidence of someone who belonged there, placed her hand over his on the polished mahogany. Claire's world tilted sideways. The room spun. She gripped the edge of the table to keep from falling. "Jessica and I have been together for 18 months, Ryan said, and Jessica rubbed her belly with her free hand, the one that wasn't holding Ryan's. The gesture was possessive, triumphant. "I'm 6 months pregnant with Ryan's child," Jessica said, and her voice held no apology, no shame, Just a quiet satisfaction that made Claire's blood run cold. The math crashed through Claire's brain like broken glass. 18 months ago. That was during her IVF struggles, when she cried on Jessica's shoulder every month the treatments failed. When Jessica had held her hand and told her it would happen eventually, that she just had to keep trying, that Ryan loved her and would wait as long as it took. Every girl's night when Jessica had consoled her, wiped her tears, promised her that everything would be okay. Every business trip Ryan took with the team at Morrison Tech. The team that included Jessica, his VP of marketing. His right hand, the woman Claire had trusted more than anyone in the world. "You were my maid of honor," Claire whispered, staring at Jessica like she was seeing her for the first time. "You helped me pick out my dress. You gave a toast about how we were like sisters. You held my hand when I had the miscarriage last year and told me not to give up hope." Jessica's face showed no remorse. Her eyes were hard, glittering with something that looked almost like vindication. "And I held his hand while you cried, Claire. Someone had to. Someone had to actually be there for him while you were too busy being sad all the time." One of the board members coughed uncomfortably. They'd all known. Claire could see it in their faces now. For months, maybe longer, they'd all known that Ryan was sleeping with Jessica. They'd all watched Claire play the devoted wife at company events, smiling for photos, making small talk with investors, and they'd all known she was being made a fool of. The lawyer nearest Claire pushed the divorce papers closer with one perfectly manicured finger. "You'll also need to sign a non-disclosure agreement," he said, like this was routine, like destroying someone's life was just another Tuesday. Standard procedure for executives and their spouses. It protects the company's interests during the IPO process. Ryan leaned back in his chair, and Claire saw him clearly for the first time in years. Really saw him. The man she'd fallen in love with, or thought she'd fallen in love with, was gone. Maybe he'd never existed at all. This man, this stranger in her husband's skin, looked at her like she was a problem he'd finally solved. "You were never good for my image, Claire," he said, and his voice was almost kind, which made it worse. "You're too ordinary, too middle class, too Midwest. Jessica understands the world I live in. She knows how to dress for events, how to talk to investors, how to be the kind of wife a CEO needs. You tried, I'll give you that, but trying isn't enough." A voice crackled over the speakerphone that someone had set up on the sideboard. Ryan's mother, Bethany Morrison, the Connecticut WASP matriarch who'd never thought Claire was good enough for her son, who'd made subtle digs at every family dinner about Claire's background, her clothes, her manners. Claire had thought she'd been imagining the hostility. Apparently not. "It's for the best, dear," Bethany said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "You were always temporary. We knew that from the beginning. Ryan needs someone from his own world, someone who understands what's required of her. You're a sweet girl, but you were never going to be enough." Claire stood up. She had to get out, had to leave before she fell apart in front of them, before she gave them the satisfaction of seeing her break. But as she turned toward the bedroom, pain exploded through her abdomen. Sharp, searing. Wrong. She looked down. Blood was running down her legs, soaking into the expensive Persian rug Ryan's mother had given them as a wedding gift. "No," she whispered. The room tilted. "No, not the babies. Please, not the babies." Her knees buckled. She hit the floor hard, and the world went sideways. Through the haze of pain, she saw Jessica reach for her phone. For a split second, Claire thought her friend, her former friend, was going to call for help. But Ryan stopped her, his hand on her wrist. "Wait," he said, and his voice was still calm, still businesslike. "The lawyers need signatures first. We don't want any complications. Make sure she signs before anyone calls emergency services." "Dad, what the fuck?" Daniel appeared in the hallway, Ryan's 16-year-old son from his first marriage. The boy Claire had helped raise, who'd spent hours doing homework at this very table while Claire made him snacks and helped with his English essays. He ran to her, skidding on his knees across the blood-slicked floor, cradling her head in his lap. "She's bleeding. Someone call 911. What's wrong with you people?" Through the haze of pain, Claire saw Ryan calmly putting documents back in his briefcase. The last thing she registered before the paramedics arrived was Jessica's face. Her best friend since college, the woman who'd been like a sister to her, was smiling. The ambulance ride was a blur of sirens and pain, and Daniel holding her hand while one of the paramedics tried to get an IV in her arm. "Stay with us, ma'am. Keep your eyes open. Tell me about your babies. How far along are you?" 24 weeks, Claire gasped. "Twin girls. Please save them. Please." The paramedic's face told her everything she needed to know. 24 weeks was barely viable. The baby's chances were 50-50 at best, maybe worse. At Mount Sinai Hospital, they rushed her straight to an operating room. The lights were too bright, burning into her retinas. Dr. Rachel Foster, her OBGYN, appeared above her in surgical scrubs. "Claire, listen to me. We're going to do everything we can, but we need to deliver now. The baby's heartbeats are failing. Do you understand?" Claire tried to speak, to beg them to save her daughters, but the anesthesia had stolen her voice. She could only watch as they cut her open and pulled two tiny translucent creatures from her body. So small, so impossibly small. Emma came first. 1.5 pounds of fighting spirit, already crying with lungs that barely worked. Then Olivia, smaller, quieter, struggling to breathe. They looked more like birds than babies. Their skin so thin, Claire could see their hearts beating through their chests. She barely saw them before they were rushed away to the NICU, and then she was alone with the surgical team closing her up, and she'd never felt more empty in her entire life. When Claire woke in recovery, the first thing she saw was Daniel asleep in the chair beside her bed. Not Ryan. Ryan hadn't come. Ryan, who was the father of the two premature babies fighting for their lives 3 floors up, hadn't bothered to show up at the hospital where his wife had just given birth. But Daniel had. This boy, who wasn't even her biological son, had stayed by her side all night. A nurse appeared, checking Claire's vitals with brisk efficiency. "You're awake. Good. The babies are in the NICU. We can take you up to see them when you're ready." "Now," Claire said, her voice hoarse. "Please, I need to see them now." They got her into a wheelchair at 3 in the morning. Daniel pushed her through the quiet hospital corridors, past other rooms where other mothers slept peacefully, their healthy full-term babies in bassinets beside them. The journey to the NICU felt like walking to her own execution. The NICU was dim and warm, filled with the beeping of monitors and the whoosh of ventilators keeping impossibly tiny humans alive. A nurse buzzed them in, and Claire saw her daughters for the first time since the birth. 2 isolates, side by side. 2 tiny bodies covered in wires and tubes, their chests rising and falling with mechanical assistance. They didn't look real. They looked like dolls, like something too fragile to exist in the world. Emma was in the isolette on the left. Her monitor showed a stable heartbeat, strong and steady despite everything. She was a fighter, the nurse said, responding well to treatment, good oxygen saturation. All things considered, she was doing remarkably well for a 24-weeker. Olivia was on the right. Her alarms kept going off. Doctors surrounded her isolette, making adjustments, checking readings, their faces grim. Claire didn't need anyone to tell her what that meant. She could see it in their body language, in the way they glanced at each other, in the careful way they avoided meeting her eyes. Dr. Foster appeared at her elbow, and Claire knew from her face that the news was bad. "Claire, we need to talk about baby B, about Olivia." The doctor's voice was gentle, which made it worse. "Her lungs aren't developed enough. She's not responding to treatment the way we'd hoped. The level of care she needs costs $15,000 per day, and that's just a start. If she needs surgery, if there are complications, it could be much more. Your insurance," a nurse appeared with paperwork, interrupting. Her face was apologetic but firm. "Miss Morrison, I'm sorry, but your coverage was terminated at 6 p.m. yesterday." Claire stared at the paper like it was written in a foreign language. "What? That's not possible. I'm on Ryan's corporate policy. I've always been on his policy." "According to this, you were removed at 6 p.m. on Monday," the nurse said, showing her the computer screen. "The effective date is right here. 6 p.m. on Monday, the same day Ryan served divorce papers, the same day Claire had been setting their anniversary table, arranging candles, believing they still had a future. He'd cut off her health insurance while she was cooking his favorite dinner, while she was 5 months pregnant with his children. The social worker appeared then, a tired-looking woman in her 50s with kind eyes that had seen too much. Miss Morrison, I understand this is difficult, but we need to discuss options. We can transfer baby B to the county facility, but I have to be honest with you, their NICU is full. The wait list is currently 3 days. 3 days? Claire's voice came out strangled. She doesn't have 3 days. Look at her. She needs help now. I know, I'm so sorry. But without insurance or payment authorization, the hospital's hands are tied. We can provide basic care, but the level of intensive intervention she needs. The social worker trailed off, the unspoken words hanging in the air like poison. The hospital administrator arrived, clipboard in hand, face professionally sympathetic, but ultimately unmoved. Miss Morrison, I'm truly sorry about your situation, but I need to be direct. We need payment authorization or we'll have to limit intensive care to what's medically necessary to prevent immediate death. We can't provide ongoing NICU care for an extended period without payment arrangements. Claire checked her phone with shaking hands. Her personal bank account showed $3,200. The joint accounts she'd had access to that morning were frozen. She tried to access them again, hoping it was a mistake, but the screen had just showed account access denied. Ryan had thought of everything. Please, Claire whispered, staring at the tiny baby fighting for life in the isolette. Her daughter, her Olivia. Please don't let my baby die because I can't pay. I'll figure something out. I'll get a loan. I'll sell everything I own. Just please don't stop helping her. She tried calling Ryan. It went straight to voicemail. She tried again and again and again. On the fourth try, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone, she gave up and opened Instagram instead. Ryan's story was at the top of her feed. Posted 2 hours ago. Him and Jessica at Del Posto, one of the most expensive restaurants in Manhattan. Champagne glasses raised. Jessica's hand on his arm. The caption read, Muharram, celebrating new beginnings. They were celebrating. While Claire sat in a hospital with 2 premature babies fighting for their lives, while one of those babies was being denied care because her father had cut off insurance, Ryan and Jessica were drinking champagne and celebrating their new life together. Claire threw her phone across the room. It hit the wall and shattered. At 4:47 a.m., the monitor next to Olivia's isolette started screaming. The sound was inhuman, electronic, relentless. Claire was on her feet before she knew she was moving, trying to get to her daughter, but security guards appeared out of nowhere and held her back. Ma'am, you need to stay back. Let the doctors work. That's my baby. That's my daughter. Please. More doctors swarmed the isolette. Nurses ran with equipment. Someone yelled for the crash cart. Time stretched and compressed. Claire had no idea if it was minutes or hours. Daniel held her upright while she screamed Olivia's name until her voice gave out. After 20 minutes of resuscitation attempts, after 20 minutes of Claire watching her daughter's tiny body being shocked and medicated and worked on by a team of exhausted professionals, Dr. Foster emerged from the crowd around the isolette. Her scrubs had blood on them. Tears tracked down her cheeks. I'm so sorry, Claire, she said, and her voice broke. We did everything we could, but we lost her. Olivia is gone. The sound that came out of Claire was inhuman. A primal scream that echoed through the NICU and made other mothers in other rooms hold their babies tighter. It was the sound of a mother's heart breaking, of a life being torn in half, of everything good in the world being ripped away. Nurses turned away because they couldn't watch. Some of them were crying too. Even the hardened NICU veterans who'd seen death dozens of times couldn't watch this particular mother's grief without breaking. Daniel held Claire while she collapsed, her body racking with sobs so violent they hurt her still healing incision. He held her while nurses whispered condolences. He held her while Dr. Foster filled out paperwork and the isolette was quietly wheeled away, taking Olivia's tiny body with it. What Claire didn't see, because she was doubled over with grief, was the private elevator at the hospital's rear entrance. What she didn't see was Marcus Stone, a man she'd never met, standing in surgical mask and scrubs, holding a tiny baby girl wrapped in a warming blanket. Very much alive. This is insane, Dr. Foster hissed, having followed him down a back hallway, her face pale with fear and guilt. I could lose my license. I could go to prison. This is kidnapping. Marcus Stone looked down at the baby in his arms. She was breathing more steadily now, her color better. She looked stronger already. You'll lose your hospital if I don't donate $50 million, he said calmly, his British accent making the words sound almost reasonable. And she would have died anyway without round-the-clock care that her mother cannot afford. I'm saving her life. You're saving her life. Sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules. The baby, Olivia, though her mother believed her dead, was whisked into a private ambulance marked with a medical transport company that didn't exist. Inside, a full neonatal ICU setup waited. Dr. Foster stood in the hallway watching them go, and then returned to the NICU where she signed a death certificate with trembling hands. Olivia Morrison, deceased 4:47 a.m., respiratory failure. Upstairs, Claire pressed her hands against Emma's isolette, the only daughter she had left. Her vision was blurred with tears, her body shaking with shock and grief. I'm so sorry I couldn't save you both, she whispered to the tiny baby inside, who couldn't hear her through the plastic and machines. I'm so sorry, baby girl. I tried. I tried so hard. Her shattered phone buzzed from where it had landed after hitting the wall. The screen was cracked, but still working. A news alert scrolled across it. Morrison Tech CEO Ryan Morrison announces engagement to VP Jessica Barrett. Wedding plan for spring. Morrison states he's never been happier as company prepares for record-breaking IPO. Daniel picked up the phone, saw the notification, and gently took it away from Claire before she could read it. But it was too late. She'd already seen. She'd already understood that while she was watching one daughter die and fighting to keep another alive, her husband was planning his future with her best friend. The next 3 days were a blur. Claire barely left Emma's side. She slept in the NICU chair when sleep came at all, which wasn't often. She hadn't showered, barely ate the food Daniel brought her. Her hair was matted. Her hospital gown hadn't been changed. She looked like a ghost. Daniel stayed too, missing school, bringing her water and granola bars and trying to make her eat something. Anything. Dad called, he said on the third day. He wants me to go to boarding school in Switzerland next week. He says he doesn't want me influenced by you anymore. He says you're unstable and he needs to protect me. Claire looked at this boy who'd been more loyal to her in 3 days than her husband had been in 6 years. You should go, Daniel. Don't let me ruin your future too. Shut up, Daniel said fiercely. You haven't ruined anything. He has, and I'm not going anywhere, not until I know you and Emma are okay. On the 4th day, the hospital administrator appeared again. Claire braced herself for the bill she couldn't pay, for the eviction notice, for whatever fresh hell was about to be added to the nightmare her life had become. Miss Morrison, the administrator said, looking at her clipboard with a confused expression, we need to discuss the outstanding balance of $230,000 for Emma's NICU care and your surgical expenses. I don't have it, Claire said flatly. You know I don't have it. Just tell me what happens now. Do I go into debt? Does Emma get transferred? What? Actually, the administrator looked even more confused. It's been paid in full this morning. Anonymous donor through the hospital foundation. Claire blinked. The words didn't make sense. What? That's not possible. Who would? I don't know. The donation was made anonymously. $230,000 paid directly to cover all your expenses with instructions that any remaining balance should go toward other NICU families in need. I've never seen anything like it. After the administrator left, Claire sat in stunned silence. Someone had paid her bills. Someone with that kind of money had decided, for whatever reason, to help her. But who? And why? And what did they want in return? She was so lost in thought that she didn't hear the chapel door open behind her an hour later. She'd gone there looking for a quiet place to cry or pray, or both. She didn't know anymore. Faith felt like something that belonged to a different person, a different life. I'm sorry for your loss. The voice came from behind her, cultured and kind. Claire turned to see a man in an expensive suit sitting 3 rows back, giving her space. He was in his early 40s, she guessed, with salt and pepper hair, a fit build, and the kind of understated elegance that spoke of real wealth. Old money, her mother would have called it, the kind that didn't need to show off. Thank you, Claire said automatically, Because that's what you said when people offered condolences, even when words meant nothing, even when you felt nothing but emptiness. I knew your husband, the man said, and something in his tone made Claire's spine straighten. In another life, before he became the man you married. Claire turned to look at him more fully. Then you know what kind of man he is. I do, the man said, standing and moving closer, but still maintaining a respectful distance. Which is why I'd like to offer you a job. He slid a business card across the pew. Stone Ventures, Marcus Stone, founder and CEO. The cardstock was thick, expensive, with elegant embossed lettering. Executive assistant, Marcus Stone said. Community outreach coordinator. You'd be vetting charitable organizations for investment, helping decide where our foundation's money goes. 150,000 annual salary start. Benefits included. You'd start when you're ready. When your daughter is healthy enough to come home. Claire stared at the card like it might bite her. Why would you help me? What do you want? Marcus Stone smiled sadly. It was the smile of someone who'd lost something important too, someone who understood grief. Let's just say Ryan Morrison and I have unfinished business, and I believe in justice. I believe that good people shouldn't be destroyed by bad ones. I believe in giving people a second chance when the world has tried to take everything from them. Did you pay my hospital bill? He didn't confirm or deny it, just looked at her with those certain stars. Your daughter needs you healthy, Miss Morrison. Emma needs her mother to survive this. You can't help her if you're drowning in debt. He handed her another card, this one with just a phone number written on it in elegant script. My personal number. Use it if you need anything. Anything at all, day or night, I mean that. He left before she could ask more questions, and Claire sat holding the cards, wondering if she'd just been offered salvation or if she'd made a deal with a different kind of devil. In her experience, men like Marcus Stone, wealthy, powerful men, didn't help people out of the goodness of their hearts. They always wanted something. But what choice did she have? Emma's care was paid for now, but what about next month? What about food, rent, diapers, formula? She had $3,000 to her name and no job. The career she'd built as an event planner was tied to Ryan's world, and that door had slammed shut. No one would hire her now. She was the woman who'd been publicly humiliated, divorced while pregnant, replaced by her own best friend. She was damaged goods. 1 week later, Claire stood at Woodlawn Cemetery in the rain, a small graveside service for Olivia Morrison. Only 4 people attended. Claire in a black dress that hung off her frame because she'd lost 20 pounds in a week. Daniel in an ill-fitting suit he'd borrowed from someone. Dr. Foster, looking haunted. And the hospital chaplain, a kind elderly man who'd seen too many premature baby funerals. The casket was closed. Too fragile for viewing, they'd said. Too small. Some things were too heartbreaking for human eyes to witness. Claire placed a teddy bear on the tiny white casket, her hands shaking so badly she nearly dropped it. You were here for 3 hours, she said, her voice breaking on every word. 3 hours was all I got with you. But you changed my life forever, Olivia. I will carry you always. I will never forget you, I promise. She couldn't say more. The words choked off in her throat as sobs took over. Daniel held her up while they lowered the casket into the ground. While they buried an empty box, because what they thought was inside was actually in a private medical facility in Connecticut, being cared for by the best neonatal nurses money could buy. While Claire stood in the rain saying goodbye to her daughter, social media exploded. TMZ posted leaked photos of Ryan and Jessica on a private yacht in the Caribbean, courtesy of some Morrison Tech employee looking to make a quick buck. The photos showed them lounging on the deck, cocktails in hand, Jessica's fake belly on display, both of them laughing without a care in the world. The headline read, Morrison Tech CEO celebrates engagement while ex-wife buries premature twin. For the first time, public outcry began, comment sections filled with outrage. How could he be celebrating while his ex-wife buried their child? What kind of monster does that? But Ryan's PR team was already on it, spinning the story, planting counter articles about Claire's instability, about how Ryan had tried to make it work, but she was mentally unwell. Tragic situation, they said, but Ryan Morrison was moving forward with his life. These things happen. People grow apart. The truth was more complicated than it seemed. By the time Claire left the cemetery, the narrative was already shifting. Some people felt sorry for her, but others wondered if maybe there was more to the story. Maybe she really was unstable. Maybe Ryan had good reasons for leaving. Maybe the truth was somewhere in the middle. That's how it always went when a powerful man destroyed a woman. People always found a way to blame the victim. After everyone else left, Claire stood alone at the grave, rain soaking through her coat. She didn't care. Let it rain. Let her get sick. What did it matter? One daughter was dead. The other was fighting for her life. Her husband had replaced her with her best friend. She had no job, no money, no future. What she didn't see was the figure watching from a distance, standing under a black umbrella beside a car that cost more than most houses. Marcus Stone phoned to his ear, voice low and calm. "Phase 1 complete," he said quietly to whoever was on the other end. "She'll come to me now. She has no choice." He ended the call, took one last look at the broken woman standing in the rain over her daughter's grave, and got back into his car. He'd made his move. Now he just had to wait for Claire Morrison to realize that he was her only option for survival. And then, maybe, he could finally destroy Ryan Morrison the way Ryan had destroyed him 10 years ago. 90 days after the divorce, Claire Morrison woke in a small one-bedroom apartment in Park Slope, Brooklyn. It was a world away from the Manhattan penthouse with its Central Park views and designer furniture. The ceiling had water stains. The radiator clanked and hissed. The neighbors were loud. The whole building smelled faintly of cooking oil and old carpet. But it was hers. Or at least, it was hers for as long as she could make the $1,500 monthly rent, which was cheap for Brooklyn, but might as well have been $1 million given her current financial situation. Emma, now 4 months adjusted age, cooed from her portable crib. The tubes were gone. The monitors were silent. She graduated from the NICU 3 weeks ago, a healthy 6 pounds of pure determination. She was thriving, and that was the only thing that mattered. That and hiding from Ryan. Claire worked for Stone Ventures 3 days a week from home, 2 days in the Midtown office. She vetted charitable organizations for investment, reading grant applications, checking financial statements, making recommendations about where the foundation's money should go. It turned out she was actually good at it. After years of planning events and managing Ryan's social calendar, she had a knack for seeing through bullshit and identifying organizations that were actually making a difference versus those that were just padding executive salaries. Marcus checked in regularly, always professional but warm. Sometimes Claire caught him watching her work with an expression she couldn't read. Sadness, maybe, or calculation. She couldn't tell which, and that uncertainty made her nervous. In the office, Amanda Wells, a 28-year-old junior associate with pink streaks in her hair and a seemingly endless supply of sarcastic observations, became her friend. Or at least, the closest thing to a friend Claire had left after Jessica's betrayal had made her question every relationship in her life. "Marcus never hires anyone without a story," Amanda said over coffee one morning, leaning against Claire's cubicle with a knowing look. "What's yours?" "Just needed a fresh start," Claire deflected, keeping her eyes on her computer screen. "Uh-huh, and I'm the Queen of England." Amanda sipped her coffee. "Come on, Morrison, you've got that look. Like someone who's been through hell and somehow made it out the other side." "I recognize it because I've got the same look." Claire glanced up. "What's your story then?" Amanda's smile was sharp. "Ask my question first. But fine, I'll trade you. My ex-husband tried to kill me. Pushed me down the stairs when I told him I was leaving. Broke 3 ribs in my collarbone. I testified, he went to prison. I changed my name and moved to New York. Your turn." Claire stared at her. Jesus Christ. "Yeah. So whatever your story is, I've probably heard worse. And I don't judge, and I don't gossip. Marcus's one rule is total confidentiality about employee personal lives. He means it too. Fired someone once for gossiping about another employee's past. So, what's your deal?" Something about Amanda's directness, her refusal to dance around the subject, made Claire's carefully constructed walls crack just slightly. "My ex-husband divorced me while I was 5 months pregnant. Cut off my health insurance the same day. One of my twins died in the NICU because I couldn't afford her care. He's engaged to my former best friend, who was his mistress for 18 months. I'm basically in hiding because he's trying to make me look unstable so he can claim I'm unfit if I ever try to get custody rights restored. Amanda's eyes widened. Holy shit. Wait, your ex is Ryan Morrison. Morrison Tech Ryan Morrison. Claire's silence was confirmation enough. Jesus Christ, Amanda breathed. I knew you looked familiar. You were all over the news a few months ago. That photo of you in the rain at the cemetery went viral. People were calling you the discarded wife. Yeah, I know. Claire's voice was flat. Amanda set down her coffee cup. Okay, new plan. You and me, we're friends now, real friends. And if that bastard comes anywhere near you, I've got a taser and a complete lack of impulse control. Deal? Despite everything, Claire smiled. Deal. But Claire was building her own story now, one where she researched late into the night after Emma went to sleep, one where she found files she wasn't supposed to see, one where she discovered that Marcus's sister Olivia had died at age 3, exactly 10 years ago, 6 months after Ryan Morrison had stolen Marcus's technology and bankrupted him. The sister had needed experimental leukemia treatment that cost $2 million. Treatment they couldn't afford because Ryan Morrison had taken everything Marcus owned and left him with nothing. Claire stared at her laptop screen in her dark apartment, the only light coming from the monitor, Emma sleeping peacefully in the next room. Marcus wasn't helping her out of kindness. He was using her for revenge. She should have felt betrayed. Instead, she felt oddly relieved. She understood revenge. Revenge made sense. Revenge was something she could work with. Late one night, 3 months into her job, Claire found monitoring software on her laptop. Hidden deep in the system files, nearly undetectable unless you knew what you were looking for. And Claire, who'd spent the last 3 months teaching herself everything she could about computers, because knowledge was the only weapon she had, knew what to look for. The software was sophisticated, tracking everything, all her passwords, files, browser history, even her keystrokes. Everything she did on this laptop was being sent in real time to Stone Venture's servers. He'd been spying on her from the beginning. Claire sat back, staring at the code on her screen, and felt something inside her shift. The last remnants of the woman who'd set that anniversary table, who'd believed in happy endings, who'd trusted people, that woman finally died. What replaced her was colder, harder, smarter. Claire called Marcus at 11 p.m. I need to see you, now. Claire, it's late. Is Emma all right? Do you need Stone Ventures? 30 minutes or I go to the police. She hung up before he could respond. The office was empty when she arrived. Just her and Marcus in the conference room, city lights glittering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Claire threw her laptop on the table between them, the screen still showing the monitoring software's code. How long have you been spying on me? Marcus didn't deny it, didn't even look surprised that she'd found it. From the beginning, the job offer, the hospital bills, all of it was about getting access to Ryan. It was about protecting you and getting justice. Both things can be true. You don't get to decide what I need protection from. Claire's voice rose, months of suppressed rage finally finding an outlet. You don't get to spy on me and manipulate me and tell yourself you're doing it for my own good. You used me. Marcus's face changed then, the polished veneer cracking to show the grief underneath. Ryan Morrison destroyed my life 10 years ago. He stole my technology, the work I'd spent years developing, filed patents in his name, left me with nothing, absolutely nothing. He pulled up a photo on his phone, showed it to Claire. A little girl with his gray eyes, maybe 3 years old, bald from chemo but smiling huge. She was missing her front teeth. She was beautiful. My sister Olivia had leukemia, Marcus continued, his voice raw. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. There was an experimental treatment. It cost $2 million. Before Ryan bankrupted me, that would have been nothing. I would have paid it in a heartbeat, but after, I had nothing. I couldn't even afford the standard chemotherapy. I watched my baby sister die because I couldn't pay to save her life. His hands shook slightly as he put his phone away. She died on her 3rd birthday. I wasn't even there because I was in court fighting Ryan, trying to get back what he'd stolen, trying to get money for her treatment. I was in a courtroom while my sister died. She called for me. She wanted her big brother, and I wasn't there. The silence stretched between them, heavy with grief. So yes, Marcus said finally, meeting her eyes. I used you because Ryan's security is impenetrable from outside. I've tried for 10 years to find a way to destroy him. But from inside, through someone he underestimated, through someone who had legitimate access to his life, that's different. I trusted you, Claire whispered, and I saved your daughter's life. The hospital was going to let Emma die. I paid for her care. That money was real. That wasn't manipulation. That doesn't give you the right. The building alarms blared, cutting her off. Emergency lights flashed. Federal agents burst through the doors, badges high, guns drawn like they were raiding a drug cartel instead of a venture capital office. Claire Morrison, you're under arrest for corporate espionage and theft of trade secrets. The agent in charge, a hard-looking man in his 50s, showed her a warrant. Evidence of stolen Morrison Tech files on her laptop. Someone had been using her old credentials to access classified servers. 47 breaches over 3 months, all from her IP address, all perfectly documented. They handcuffed her in front of Marcus. Claire's mind raced. Did you do this? Was this your plan all along? No. Marcus looked genuinely shocked, his calculated composure finally cracking. This is Ryan. He must have traced the breaches back to you. I was careful, but clearly not careful enough. Agents swarmed the office, seizing laptops, tablets, phones, everything electronic. A female agent asked about childcare arrangements, and Claire's panic crystallized into pure terror. My daughter is with a babysitter. She's 4 months old. Please, I need to call her. I need to make arrangements. Please, well. A CPS social worker appeared in the doorway as if summoned by nightmare. Middle-aged woman with tired eyes and a clipboard. Miss Morrison, given the severity of the federal charges against you and the lack of family support, we're going to need to take emergency custody of the minor child until this is resolved. No! Claire lunged against the agents holding her, handcuffs cutting into her wrists. She's all I have left. Please. I just got her home from the NICU. She needs me. Emma. But they were already making calls, already dispatching someone to collect Emma from the babysitter, already processing Claire as if she were a criminal instead of a mother whose entire life had been systematically destroyed. The baby would be crying, Claire thought, crying for her mother. She'd just learned to recognize Claire's face, just started smiling when Claire sang to her. And now she'd be taken by strangers and placed in foster care, while her mother sat in federal custody. Claire collapsed on the floor, still handcuffed, while Marcus stood helpless above her. For the first time since this nightmare began, she felt truly broken. Not bent, not wounded, broken. At 4 a.m. in the FBI field office, Claire sat under fluorescent lights that made her look like a corpse. Her wrists hurt from the handcuffs. Her breasts hurt because she was hours late for pumping, and her body didn't understand that her baby had been taken away. Her soul hurt because she'd reached the bottom of a pit she didn't know existed. Agent Miller, hard-eyed and unsympathetic, laid out the evidence with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Her laptop had connected to Morrison Tech's VPN 47 times over the last 3 months. Each time, someone had downloaded massive amounts of proprietary data. Patents, source code, client lists, financial records. Estimated damage to Morrison Tech, $50 million in stolen intellectual property, federal charges, computer fraud, industrial espionage. If convicted, she'd face 10 to 20 years in federal prison. I didn't do this, Claire said for the 10th time, her voice hoarse. Someone used me. Someone hacked my laptop. Marcus Stone. Mr. Stone has been cooperating with our investigation, Agent Miller interrupted. He came forward 2 days ago, said he suspected you were using him to access his network, then using that access as a springboard into other companies' systems. He's provided us with extensive documentation. Claire felt the world tilt. What? Agent Torres, a younger woman with slightly more empathy in her eyes, slid a folder across the table. Mr. Stone alerted us to suspicious activity on his network, traced it to your laptop, called us immediately. He's been very cooperative. Marcus had betrayed her to save himself. Of course he had. Why had she expected anything different? Everyone betrayed her eventually. That's just what people did. At 8 a.m., after 4 hours of interrogation that went nowhere because Claire had no information to give them, a lawyer arrived. Gregory Walsh, expensive suit, $1,500 an hour, the kind of lawyer who defended hedge fund managers and corrupt politicians. "I'm here on Mr. Stone's behalf," Walsh said smoothly. "He's retained me to represent Miss Morrison. I've negotiated your release. Bail has been posted. You'll be subject to electronic monitoring pending trial." "I can't afford you," Claire said flatly. "Mr. Stone is covering all costs. He wants to help." Outside the FBI building, Marcus waited in his town car. Lincoln town car, black, tinted windows, driver in a suit. The kind of car that screamed money without being ostentatious about it. Claire got in, numb with shock and exhaustion. They sat in silence for several blocks. "Why?" Claire finally asked. "Because I'm not the monster you think I am. You turned me in. I gave them a controlled narrative. Ryan was already building a case against you. He'd already planted evidence. I saw it coming and got ahead of it. If I hadn't called the FBI first, you'd be facing charges without any defense at all. This way I can claim I was a victim too. I can help you. My daughter is with strangers in foster care because of you." "I know." Marcus's voice was quiet. "And I'm going to help you get her back. I swear to you, Claire, we're going to get Emma back. But first I need to tell you the truth. The whole truth." Claire laughed bitterly. "What makes you think I'll believe anything you say ever again?" "Because what I'm about to tell you is going to change everything." Marcus took her to his Tribeca penthouse. Minimalist decor, all clean lines and expensive materials. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson River. Art on the walls that probably cost more than Claire's entire life savings. The kind of place where every object was chosen by a designer and cost more than most people's monthly rent. He poured whiskey into crystal tumblers. Claire refused hers. She hadn't eaten in 24 hours, but the thought of food made her stomach turn. "What I'm about to tell you will make you hate me more," Marcus said, settling into a leather chair that probably cost $5,000. "But you deserve to know the truth. All of it." He went to a wall safe hidden behind a panel that looked like solid wall until he pressed it and it swung open. From inside, he removed a file folder, medical records, photos, legal documents. He slid a photo across the glass coffee table. A baby girl, 4 months old, chubby cheeks, bright eyes, wearing a pink sleeper with elephants on it. She looked healthy, happy, thriving. She looked identical to Emma. The date stamp in the corner said yesterday. Claire's brain refused to process what she was seeing. "Who is that?" "Olivia," Marcus said quietly. "Your daughter. She's alive." The room spun. Claire gripped the edge of the coffee table to keep from falling. "That's not funny. That's not fucking funny, Marcus. My daughter died. I watched her die. I buried her." "You watched her monitor flat line. You buried an empty casket." He showed her more photos. Baby Olivia in what looked like a private medical facility. State-of-the-art NICU equipment. Nurses in scrubs attending to her. Photos dated over the last 4 months, showing her getting bigger, stronger, healthier. "She's been in my private medical facility in Connecticut since the night she was born." Claire couldn't breathe. Her vision tunneled. This couldn't be real. This was a psychotic break. She'd finally snapped under the pressure, and this was her mind protecting her from reality by creating an elaborate delusion. "That night in the hospital," Marcus continued, his voice steady but his hands shaking slightly as he laid out photo after photo, "I bribed Dr. Foster, $2 million plus complete malpractice insurance coverage for the rest of her career. Olivia wasn't dying, she was struggling, you took us, but with proper care she could survive. But you couldn't afford that care. Ryan had cut your insurance. The hospital was about to transfer her to county facility." He pulled out more documentation. News articles from 4 months ago. The county NICU had a staph infection outbreak that week. 6 premature babies died. If Olivia had been transferred there, she would have been number 7. Dr. Foster and I knew that, so we made a choice. "You let me bury an empty coffin." Claire's voice came out strangled. "Yes. I mourned my daughter for 4 months. Yes. I stood at a grave and said goodbye to her while you—" She couldn't finish. The words wouldn't come. Rage and grief and relief and horror crashed through her in waves that threatened to drown her. "She's alive, Claire. Your daughter is alive and healthy and thriving." Claire looked at the photos spread across the table. Olivia at 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, growing, changing, living a whole life that Claire had missed. Why now? The word came out broken. Marcus took a shaky breath. "My sister's name was Olivia. She was 3 when she died. When I saw your dying baby had the same name—" He stopped, composed himself. "I couldn't let another Olivia die because of Ryan Morrison. I couldn't watch it happen again. So I saved her, and yes, I used her as leverage against Ryan. I'm not going to lie to you about that, but I also genuinely saved her life." He showed her a video on his tablet. Olivia in a crib, maybe a week old, watching a tablet screen. On the screen, Claire was singing. One of the videos Daniel had taken in the NICU, Claire singing softly to Emma. Baby Olivia watched intently, cooing, smiling. "I play videos of you every night," Marcus said. "Your voice, your face, your singing. She knows you. She smiles when she sees you. You're still her mother, Claire. You've always been her mother." Claire reached out to touch the tablet screen, tracing her daughter's face, her living daughter, her Olivia, who she thought was dead. "Does she—" Claire's voice broke. "Does she know me?" "Watch." He played another video, recent, based on the date stamp. A nurse holding Olivia maybe 2 days ago. The nurse starts to sing and Olivia gets fussy, crying. Then the nurse pulls up a video on a tablet, one of Claire singing a lullaby, and Olivia immediately calms down, reaches for the screen, makes happy sounds. She recognizes your voice. She prefers your singing to anyone else's. She's bonded to you even though you haven't been there in person, because I made sure you were there in every other way possible." Claire looked at Marcus through tears. "I should call the police. This is kidnapping. This is fraud. This is the only reason Olivia is alive," Marcus finished quietly. "And if you call the police, she goes into the system immediately. Ryan will file for custody. He's her biological father. He has money and lawyers and a reputation as a successful businessman. You have federal espionage charges and no money, and a history of mental instability that his lawyers have been carefully constructing. Who do you think will get custody?" "So you've trapped me." Claire's laugh was bitter. "I've given you a weapon," Marcus corrected. "Ryan thinks one daughter is dead, one is in foster care. He thinks you're powerless. He thinks he's won. Let him think that while we destroy him." Claire looked at the photos spread across the table. Her daughter, her living, breathing, thriving daughter, who she'd believed was dead, who she'd grieved for, who she'd said goodbye to. The ethical thing would be to call the police, to report the kidnapping, to get her daughter through legal channels, even if that meant Ryan might get custody. But Claire was discovering that she didn't care much about ethics anymore. Ethics were for people who still believed the system worked. Claire had learned better. "Show me how to see her," she said. "I have a car waiting. We can go right now if you want. She's in Connecticut, about 40 minutes away. The facility is disguised as a private rehab center. No one will question your presence there." "And Emma?" Marcus's expression softened. "We get her back, but we need leverage against Ryan, and I've been investigating him for months. I've found things, Claire, terrible things, but I need more proof before I can go to the authorities. Help me finish this. Help me destroy Ryan Morrison. Then you get both daughters back." Claire looked at Olivia's photo, thought of Emma in foster care with strangers, remembered Ryan's cruelty, Jessica's betrayal, the moment she collapsed on the penthouse floor while they watched her bleed. "Tell me what you need me to do." Over the next 6 months, Claire Morrison transformed herself into a weapon. Victor Romano, Marcus's head of security, a former FBI agent with a military bearing and kind eyes, taught her self-defense, boxing, weapons handling, how to throw a punch, how to take one, how to break someone's nose if they got too close. She learned hacking from one of Marcus's tech consultants, social engineering, digital forensics, how to find information, people tried to hide, how to cover her tracks, how to become a ghost in the digital world. She dyed her hair dark brown from blonde, got colored contacts that turned her green eyes blue, learned a Southern accent, spending hours watching videos and working with a dialogue coach. Started dressing differently, moving differently, became someone else. Every week she drove to Connecticut to see Olivia, held her daughter, read her stories, sang her lullabies, watched her grow from a fragile NICU baby into a healthy, happy infant. Olivia's first word was "Mama." She said it looking at a photo of Claire that the nurses had taped to her crib. Claire, who'd been standing in the doorway watching, burst into tears. She went back to family court every 6 weeks to fight for Emma. Every hearing was denied. Every time she sat across from Ryan and Jessica and watched them smirk, while the judge ruled against her based on fabricated psychiatric evaluations and deep-fake videos that Ryan's AI division had created. Each denial hardened something inside her. Each loss chipped away at the woman she'd been and replaced her with someone colder. Someone who could look at injustice and not cry anymore. Someone who could plan revenge without flinching. In the mirror one night, 6 months into her transformation, Claire barely recognized herself. Dark hair pulled back, sharp eyes that had lost their softness, a mouth that rarely smiled anymore. She looked dangerous. She looked like someone who'd walked through hell and come out the other side carrying a torch. "They taught me to be powerless," she said to her reflection, her Southern accent perfect now, even when she was alone. "They taught me that nice women finish last, that good girls get destroyed, that playing by the rules means losing everything." She leaned closer to the mirror, meeting her own eyes. "Now I'll teach them what power really looks like." 8 months after the courthouse devastation, Claire Morrison walked into Morrison Tech headquarters as Lena Grant. Dark hair in a severe bun, black framed glasses, subtle Southern accent that made her sound educated but approachable, conservative business suit that made her look professional but unremarkable. She was unrecognizable. She was one of 10 consultants hired to prepare the company for its initial public offering. The IPO was Ryan's crowning achievement. Taking Morrison Tech public would make him a billionaire several times over and cement his reputation as a tech visionary. It would also be his downfall. Ryan appeared in the conference room to give the welcome speech. He looked older, more tired than Claire remembered. Still charismatic in public, still able to work a room, but there were new lines around his eyes, new gray in his hair. Jessica's pregnancy had been difficult, apparently, or rather, faking a pregnancy for 6 months had been difficult. "Welcome to the team," Ryan said, making eye contact with each consultant. His gaze lingered on Lena for a moment. "You look familiar. Have we met before?" Claire's heart hammered, but her voice came out steady and perfectly accented. "I don't think so, sir. I'm from Atlanta originally. First time working in New York, actually." Ryan smiled. "Well, welcome to the city. I'm sure you'll fit right in. We're building something special here at Morrison Tech, the future of cybersecurity, and you're all here to help us share that future with the world." He doesn't recognize me, Claire thought as he moved on to greet the next consultant. His own wife, the woman he was married to for 6 years. I'm standing 3 feet from him and he has no idea who I am. The realization was both liberating and devastating. Her assignment was perfect for Marcus's plan, auditing Morrison Tech's data security protocols before the IPO. It meant access to every system, every server, every file. It meant legitimate reasons to dig through the company's digital infrastructure looking for vulnerabilities. It meant she could search for evidence while everyone thought she was doing her job. On her third day, she was alone in the server room copying encrypted files to a hidden drive when a voice behind her said quietly, "You got taller." Claire spun around, hand instinctively going to the taser Victor had given her, hidden in her jacket pocket. Daniel stood in the doorway. Ryan's son. Now 17, taller, his shoulders broader, but his eyes were the same, sweet and knowing and older than they should be. "The accent's good," he said, closing the door behind him and lowering his voice. "The hair threw me off at first, but I'd know you anywhere, Claire. You have the same way of biting your lip when you're concentrating." Claire considered lying, considered maintaining the cover. Then she dropped the Southern accent and said simply, "Daniel, you're supposed to be in Zurich. Graduated early, insisted on a gap year internship here before college. He moved closer and Claire saw he was trying not to cry. Dad couldn't say no without looking bad. The prodigal son returning to learn the family business and all that. He hugged her tightly, and Claire felt something in her chest crack. This boy, this kid who wasn't even her biological son, but who'd stayed by her side through the worst moments of her life. "I've been waiting for you to come back," Daniel whispered. "I knew you would. I knew you wouldn't just disappear." "Daniel, you can't tell anyone. If your father finds out, he thinks I'm the dutiful son." Daniel pulled back, his smile sharp and bitter. "He thinks boarding school turned me into a little version of him. He has no idea I've been documenting everything." "What?" Daniel pulled out his phone, showed her a hidden folder. "Hidden camera footage, recorded conversations, financial records. I've been building a case against him for 8 months, ever since they took Emma. I just didn't know what to do with it." They moved to a storage room where they wouldn't be interrupted. For the next hour, Daniel showed Claire what he'd collected. And it was damning. Evidence of Ryan bribing judges, falsifying documents, hiring the man who'd attacked Claire in the parking garage, communications with Jessica about eliminating Claire permanently if necessary. "He killed my mother," Daniel said quietly, showing Claire police reports from 10 years ago. "Everyone said it was an accident, car crash, but I found these." He pulled up emails between Ryan and a man named Victor Torres, not Marcus's Victor, a different one, someone who did wet work for wealthy people who needed problems solved. "Brake line tampering," Daniel said, "made to look like normal wear. My mom was divorcing him, going for full custody, and then suddenly she was gone, and I was stuck with him and Bethany." Claire stared at the evidence. Ryan hadn't just destroyed her life. He'd destroyed others, multiple others. She wasn't his victim. She was his pattern. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Don't be sorry. Help me make sure he can't hurt anyone else." Together they hatched a plan. Daniel had physical access to Ryan's private office. Claire had hacking skills to access encrypted servers. Between them, they could get at everything. They worked late into the nights over the next 2 weeks, Daniel keeping watch while Claire infiltrated system after system. What they found was worse than corporate fraud. It was treason. Morrison Tech's flagship cybersecurity software was actually sophisticated spyware, installed on government computers, military systems, Fortune 500 companies. Every client thought they were being protected. Instead, they were being monitored. Ryan was selling the data to foreign buyers. Russians, Chinese, North Koreans, anyone with money. The money trail led to over $200 million in offshore accounts. Federal crime level, espionage, treason, conspiracy. If they could prove it, Ryan would face 25 to life. "This isn't just about revenge anymore," Claire said, staring at the evidence. "People could die from this. National security is compromised." "Then we make sure he goes down for it," Daniel said. They copied everything. 500 gigabytes of evidence. Encrypted it to multiple drives. One for the FBI, one for major media outlets, one for insurance in case something went wrong. Claire called Marcus from a burner phone at 3 a.m. "I have everything. Government data sales, murder for hire, custody fraud, all of it, everything we need to bury him." "Then we go to the FBI tomorrow," Marcus said. "No." Claire's voice was cold. "We use it at the IPO celebration. 500 investors, live cameras, international press coverage. He'll be trapped on stage in front of everyone. He destroyed me in public. I return the favor." Marcus paused. When he spoke again, his voice held a note of pride mixed with a concern. "You've changed." "You taught me to," Claire said and ended the call. The plan was set. Morrison Tech IPO launch party in 3 days. 500 VIP guests at the Plaza Hotel Grand Ballroom. Live streamed to investors worldwide. Claire would hijack Ryan's presentation and expose everything during his moment of triumph. But first, Marcus said, she needed to see Emma one more time. Victor had been tracking Jessica's schedule religiously. Every Saturday morning at 10 a.m., she took Emma to Central Park Playground while Ryan played golf. "Before we burn his world down," Marcus said, "you deserve to see your daughter, just in case something goes wrong. Just in case this is your last chance." Claire wanted to argue that nothing would go wrong, that the plan was perfect. But she'd learned better than to assume anything was certain. So on Saturday morning, she sat on a park bench 50 yards from the playground, wearing a hoodie and sunglasses, and watched her daughter play. Emma was 13 months old now, toddling around bright and happy, chattering in that baby babble that wasn't quite words yet. She was perfect. She was healthy. She was everything Claire had fought for. And she was in Jessica Barrett's arms. Jessica was on her phone, not really watching Emma. The baby wandered toward the pump, tripped over a stick, fell hard on her knees and started crying. Jessica didn't notice. She was too busy scrolling through Instagram. Claire was moving before she thought about it. Instinct overrode caution and training and common sense. She ran to Emma, picked her up, checked her for injuries, brushed the dirt off her overalls. "Are you okay, sweetheart? Did you hurt yourself?" Emma stopped crying, looked up at Claire with those huge eyes, Ryan's eyes, unfortunately. But Claire tried not to hold that against the baby. Emma stared at her for a long moment, then her face lit up. "Mama?" Claire's heart stopped. "You remember me?" Her voice came out strangled. Emma touched Claire's face with pudgy fingers, traced her cheek. "Mama sad?" "No, baby." Claire pulled her close, breathing in that baby powder smell, feeling Emma's small body warm against her chest. "Mama's okay now. Mama's going to be okay." "Lena!" Jessica ran over, face pale with shock. She grabbed Emma away, clutching the baby too tightly. Emma started to cry again, reaching back toward Claire. "What the hell are you doing? Stay away from her!" Jessica's voice was sharp, but underneath Claire heard fear. Claire kept the southern accent in place, kept her face neutral. "She fell, ma'am. I was just making sure she was all right. No harm done." Jessica's eyes narrowed. She looked at Claire more closely, at the dark hair, the glasses, the careful makeup that changed the shape of her face. "I know who you are." Claire's blood ran cold. Jessica lowered her voice so the other mothers at the playground wouldn't hear. "You think I don't recognize my own best friend? Hair dye and colored contacts aren't enough, Claire. I've known since the day you walked into Morrison Tech. Did you really think Ryan's the only one who can play games?" Claire dropped the accent. "How long?" "Since your first day. You think we're stupid?" Jessica's smile was cruel. "We've been feeding you fake data for weeks. Everything you copied, everything you think you found, it's all fabricated. When you go to the FBI with your evidence, you'll be the one who gets arrested. Again." The ground disappeared beneath Claire's feet. "Did you really think you could beat Ryan Morrison?" Jessica continued, enjoying herself now. "He built a billion-dollar company from nothing. He's 10 steps ahead of everyone. And you? You're just his discarded wife, his mistake, the ordinary little nobody he should never have married in the first place." Jessica shifted Emma to her other hip. The baby was still crying, still reaching for Claire. "Enjoy your little victory fantasy. It ends Monday at the plaza. We'll be watching when they arrest you." She walked away, and Emma screamed, "Mama! Mama! Want Mama! "I'm your mama now, sweetie," Jessica said loudly for Claire's benefit. "Your real mama is sick, but Daddy and I will take care of you." Claire stood frozen in the playground, watching her daughter being carried away by the woman who had stolen her life. Every instinct screamed at her to chase after them, to grab Emma and run, to do something. But Victor materialized at her elbow, his hand gentle on her arm. "Boss needs to know," he said quietly. "Come on, we need to regroup." "It's over," Claire said numbly. "They knew the whole time. We walked into a trap." Her phone buzzed. Text from Daniel. "Don't panic. Found Dad's backup server that Jessica doesn't know about. The real data. He keeps 2 sets of books. One fake to catch leaks, one real. Get to office now." Claire looked at Victor, and something in her eyes must have scared him because he took a step back. "No," she said, "we haven't lost yet." Daniel met them in the underground parking garage of Morrison Tech at midnight. He looked exhausted, his eyes red-rimmed from crying or exhaustion or both. In his hands, he carried a hard drive that looked identical to the dozens of other hard drives in Morrison Tech's server room. "Dad has a paranoia problem," Daniel explained, climbing into the back of Victor's car. "He doesn't trust anyone, not even Jessica. Especially not Jessica, actually. So he keeps 2 sets of records. The official ones that everyone can see, carefully sanitized and perfect. And the real ones that only he has access to. How did you find them? Claire asked. I'm his son. I know his patterns. I know how he thinks. Daniel's smile was bitter. I've been studying him my whole life, trying to understand what kind of man could kill his wife and then raise her son like nothing happened. Turns out the kind of man who would do that is also the kind of man who keeps meticulous records of his crimes, just in case he needs leverage. He connected the hard drive to a laptop, typed in a password, and pulled up file after file. This wasn't sanitized. This wasn't fake. This was real. Financial records showing exactly how much money Ryan had embezzled and where it had gone. Communications with foreign agents about data sales. Contracts with hackers to create the deepfake videos used against Claire in court. Payment records to the judge who'd ruled against her. And most damning of all, detailed communications about handling Ryan's first wife. Payments to the man who'd cut her brake lines. Follow-up messages confirming her death. Jessica's emails acknowledging that she knew about it. Jesus Christ, Victor breathed, reading over their shoulders. This is enough to put him away for the rest of his life. It's enough to put them both away, Daniel corrected. Jessica knew everything. She helped plan half of it, the fake pregnancy, the custody fraud, all of it. She's just as guilty as he is. Claire stared at the evidence, years of careful crimes laid out in meticulous detail. Why does he keep this? Why not destroy it? Insurance, Marcus said. He'd arrived separately, standing in the shadows of the parking garage like he'd materialized from nowhere. Men like Ryan always keep evidence, in case partners turn on them, in case they need leverage, in case the world turns against them. They think they're too smart to ever get caught, so keeping records seems safe. They never imagine someone might actually find them. He looked at the laptop screen, scrolling through files. This is good. This is better than good. This is everything we need. So we go to the FBI now, Claire said. We hand this over and let them... No, Gunn. Marcus's voice was firm. We stick to the original plan. We expose him at the IPO celebration, in front of 500 investors and live cameras. We destroy him publicly and completely. But Jessica knows I'm there, Claire protested. She recognized me. She'll tell Ryan. She hasn't yet, Daniel said. I've been monitoring their communications. She hasn't told him. I think, he paused, considering, I think she wants you there. I think she wants to watch you get arrested. She's enjoying it too much to ruin it by warning him early. Which means we have 3 days, Victor said. 3 days before they spring whatever trap they have planned. 3 days to make sure our trap works better. They spent the next 72 hours preparing. Claire practiced her timing, rehearsing exactly how long it would take to upload the files to Morrison Tech's presentation system. Marcus coordinated with FBI contacts who would be waiting outside the plaza, ready to make arrests the moment the evidence went public. Victor arranged security to make sure Ryan and Jessica couldn't escape the ballroom once everything started. And Daniel? Daniel kept playing the part of the dutiful son, attending meetings with his father, smiling when Ryan talked about the IPO, pretending he didn't know that in 3 days his father's empire would crumble. He's talking about sailing after the IPO goes public, Daniel told Claire on Sunday night, his voice hollow. Wants to take a month off, sail around the Mediterranean with Jessica and Emma. Show Emma the world. Like he's father of the year. He won't get the chance, Claire said quietly. Monday morning, Claire Morrison woke before dawn. She showered. Did her hair and makeup with extra care, becoming Lena Grant one last time. Put on a dark professional dress that wouldn't stand out in a crowd but would photograph well for the viral moment she was about to create. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. This wasn't the Claire who'd set that anniversary table 9 months ago. That woman was dead. This person, harder, colder, capable of calculated revenge, was who remained. They taught you to be powerless, she said to her reflection. But you taught yourself to be dangerous. Time to show them what that means. The Plaza Hotel Grand Ballroom was a monument to excess. Crystal chandeliers dripped from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls. The carpet probably cost more per square foot than Claire's monthly rent. 500 guests in designer clothes sipped champagne that cost more than a car payment and made small talk about market conditions and investment strategies. Claire Morrison, disguised as Lena Grant, stood in the back of the crowd with an encrypted drive in her purse and murder in her heart. On stage, Morrison Tech's ticker flashed on massive LED screens. $87 per share, opening price, $15 billion valuation. Ryan Morrison's net worth had just increased by roughly $8 billion. He should have been celebrating. Instead, in exactly 12 minutes, he'd be under arrest. Ryan made his entrance to thunderous applause. Perfect gray suit, presidential wave. His smile was wide and genuine. Why wouldn't it be? This was his moment of ultimate triumph. Jessica stood beside him in a red dress that probably cost more than Claire's car, the fake pregnancy belly finally gone. She was playing the role of supportive partner, gazing at Ryan like he'd hung the moon. Emma toddled out, held by a nanny, wearing a designer dress that cost more than Claire's weekly grocery budget. She was just a prop for the photo op, a symbol of Ryan's perfect new family. Claire's hands clenched into fists. That's my daughter, she thought. My Emma. And you're using her like an accessory. Daniel stood off to the side of the stage, positioned exactly where they'd planned. Marcus was in the balcony with Victor, backup plans upon backup plans in place. FBI agents waited outside, ready to move. Everything was ready. Ryan's speech began. 10 years ago, I had a vision. A world where data could be protected, where companies could operate without fear of cyber attacks, where technology served humanity instead of threatening it. The crowd hung on every word. He was charismatic. Claire had to give him that. Even knowing what she knew, even hating him with every fiber of her being, she could see why people followed him, why investors trusted him, why the world saw him as a visionary. Morrison Tech represents that vision made real, Ryan continued. We've built the most sophisticated cybersecurity platform in history. Governments trust us. Fortune 500 companies trust us. Military contractors trust us. And today with our IPO, we invite the world to trust us too. Claire pulled out her phone, sent a text to Daniel. Go. On stage, Ryan gestured to the screens behind him. Let me show you exactly what we've accomplished. The lights flickered. The main screen glitched. Ryan looked annoyed. Technical difficulty. Just one moment, ladies and gentlemen. The screens went black. Then they came back on, but not with Ryan's carefully prepared presentation. Instead, the title slide read, The Truth About Morrison Tech. Ryan's face went white. Cut the feed. Someone cut the goddamn feed. But it was too late. Daniel had locked out the technical booth. The presentation would play in its entirety, broadcast live to 50,000 viewers online, recorded by hundreds of phones in the ballroom. Evidence flooded the screens. Financial records showing offshore accounts, client lists of foreign agents who'd bought stolen data, backdoor code schematics proving the spyware, government communications that Ryan had illegally accessed and sold, chat logs discussing how to eliminate problems. Then came Jessica's fake pregnancy, medical records proving her infertility, receipts for prosthetic bellies, text messages between her and Ryan discussing how to maintain the deception, custody fraud, payments to Judge Harrison, fabricated psychiatric evaluations, the name and badge number of the man Ryan had hired to assault Claire in the parking garage, and finally the video that would end everything. From Ryan's private office, recorded by Daniel's hidden camera 3 days ago. Ryan and Jessica arguing about Claire. On screen, Ryan's voice. If Claire keeps pushing, we'll handle her like we handled Melissa. Jessica. Your first wife? How did you? Ryan, casual as discussing the weather. Brake lines. Made it look like an accident. She was going to take Daniel and ruin me. I eliminated a problem. Big difference. The ballroom erupted in chaos. Gasps, shouting, people backing away from Ryan like he was contaminated. Cameras flashing everywhere. Reporters screaming questions. The stock ticker on screen plummeted in real time. 87, 73, 58, 42, 31. Ryan stood frozen on stage, his perfect mask finally shattered. Who did this? He screamed, scanning the crowd. Who fucking did this? Claire stepped forward from the crowd, removed her glasses, pulled the pins from her hair so it fell loose around her shoulders. wiped off the lipstick that changed the shape of her mouth. I did, she said in her real voice, no trace of Southern accent remaining. Every camera in the room turned to her. Every phone, every professional video crew, every live stream. In that moment, Claire Morrison became the center of the world's attention. Ryan saw her, really saw her. His face went through a rapid evolution of emotions: confusion, recognition, shock, rage. Claire, but you're Lena Grant. Oh my God. His voice came out strangled. You were here the whole time. You were right here and I didn't recognize your own wife. Claire walked toward the phone, the crowd parting for her like the Red Sea. 8 months, Ryan. I worked 3 feet from your office for 8 months. I sat in meetings with you. I audited your systems. I had coffee with your executives. And you never once realized who I was. She climbed the stairs to the stage, stood there in front of 500 people, and faced the man who'd destroyed her life. Did you really think you could do what you did and face no consequences? Her voice was steady, cold, final. Did you really think I would just disappear? Ryan's rage exploded. You bitch! You've ruined everything. Do you have any idea what you've done? I'm finished. The company is finished. You've destroyed it all. No, Claire said calmly. You destroyed it. I just made sure everyone found out. The chaos in the ballroom intensified. Jessica tried to run, but Victor's security team blocked every exit. Ryan turned on her, his face twisted with fury. This is your fault. You said she was broken. You said she'd never recover. Ryan, calm down. Jessica backed away from him, suddenly afraid. Calm down? Ryan's voice rose to a scream. Our lives are over. The company is finished. We're going to prison because you couldn't even recognize your own goddamn best friend. The admission hung in the air. So Jessica had told him after all. They'd both known Claire was there and they'd let her stay, so confident in their trap that they'd forgotten she might have one of her own. You were nothing before me. Ryan stormed toward Claire, security guards moving to intercept, but hesitating because they weren't sure if they should grab a CEO at his own event. I made you. I gave you everything. The penthouse, the lifestyle, the life you never could have afforded on your own. You gave me nothing but pain, Claire said, her voice cutting through his rage like ice. Everything I had, I earned. Everything you had, you stole. This was him. Ryan wheeled toward the balcony where Marcus stood. Marcus Stone, you put her up to this. This is your revenge, isn't it? 10 years later and you still can't let it go. Actually, Marcus called down, his voice carrying across the sudden silence. I just gave her the tools. She did this herself, every bit of it. I'm just here to watch. Daniel stepped forward from the side of the stage. I gave her the evidence, Dad, your own son. The son whose mother you murdered. Ryan's face went slack. Daniel, you don't understand. That was an accident. The police said what you paid them to say. Daniel's voice shook, but he held his ground. I found the emails, the payments, everything. You killed Mom because she was going to leave you and take me. You killed her and then you raised me and made me call that woman Grandma and smile for family photos like nothing happened. I'm your father, Ryan said, and for the first time his voice held something other than rage. Desperation. Plea. Everything I did was to protect our family. To protect you. You're not my father, and then Daniel's voice was flat, final. You're a murderer, and after tonight, everyone will know it. Ryan completely unhinged then. He grabbed Jessica's arm, yanking her toward him. Tell them it was all your idea. The fake pregnancy, framing Claire. All of it. You planned everything. Ryan, let go. Jessica tried to pull away. You stupid bitch. Ryan shoved her. Hard. Jessica stumbled backward in her expensive heels. Hit the floor. And her prosthetic belly, because apparently she'd kept wearing it even after the miscarriage for some reason, maybe out of habit, maybe because she'd grown attached to the lie, broke open. Silicone filling spilled across the stage. Medical-grade prosthetic pieces scattered. The crowd gasped. Cameras zoomed in. Every phone in the room captured the moment Jessica Barrett's final lie was exposed in the most public way possible. The pregnancy was fake, a reporter shouted. Even before the miscarriage, it was fake? Jessica sobbed on the floor, curling into herself. I can't have children. I just wanted to be enough for him. I just wanted him to love me. You've exposed everything, Ryan screamed at her. You stupid fucking... Emma started crying. The nanny, overwhelmed and terrified, had let go of her hand. The toddler ran across the stage toward the only familiar face she could see. Not Jessica, not Ryan. Claire. Mama! Mama! Claire dropped to her knees, arms open, and Emma crashed into her. The baby clung to her, sobbing, and Claire held her daughter, her Emma, her baby, her little girl who remembered her after all these months. And for a moment, the entire ballroom faded away. Mama home? Emma asked through her tears. Yes, baby, Claire whispered, crying too now. Mama's home. Mama's finally home. The doors burst open. FBI agents swarmed in, badges high, guns drawn. Ryan Morrison, you're under arrest for espionage, fraud, conspiracy to commit murder, and about 15 other charges I don't have time to list right now. Agent Miller, the same agent who'd arrested Claire months ago, approached with handcuffs. His expression suggested he wasn't particularly enjoying this, but he was professional about it. Ryan's face cycled through emotions. Rage, desperation, finally settling on something like acceptance, or maybe just exhaustion. They cuffed him, read him his rights, and he didn't resist. Just stood there while his life ended in front of 500 witnesses and 50,000 live stream viewers. This isn't over, he said as they led him away. You think this is over? My lawyers will... Your lawyers will have a hard time defending treason charges, Agent Miller interrupted. But you're welcome to try. We've been watching you for 6 months, Morrison, ever since Mr. Stone came to us with preliminary evidence. We've had teams building this case. The evidence that just went public? We already have it. We've already verified it. You're done. As they took Ryan out, he managed one last look back at Claire. I made you, he said again, like if he repeated it enough times it would become true. You were nothing without me. Claire, still holding Emma, met his eyes. And now you're nothing without your lies. How does it feel? They dragged him away, still shouting about lawsuits and evidence and conspiracies, his voice fading as the ballroom doors closed. Jessica was arrested separately, quieter, broken. As they led her past Claire, she stopped. I loved you, Jessica whispered. I actually loved you. You were my best friend, the only real friend I ever had. Claire looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not a villain but a broken woman who'd made terrible choices trying to fill an emptiness inside herself. It didn't excuse anything, but it made Jessica human instead of just a monster. Then you should have been my friend, Claire said, not my replacement. I know, Jessica said, and she was crying now. I know, I'm sorry. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. It's not worth much, Claire said. But I hope you find whatever it was you were looking for. I hope it was worth losing everything. They took Jessica away too, and the ballroom slowly emptied as security ushered out the guests, as reporters scrambled to file stories, as the biggest corporate scandal in decades played out in real time across every news outlet in the world. Daniel came to stand beside Claire. Emma reached for him. Dada? Danny. And he took her carefully, letting her play with his tie while Claire stood up, her legs shaky. We did it, Daniel said quietly. You did it, Claire corrected. The evidence, the camera. You saved us, Daniel. You saved yourself, he said. I just helped. Marcus appeared, Victor at his side. FBI wants statements from all of us. It's going to be a long night. What happens to Morrison Tech? Claire asked. The employees, the actual innocent people who work there? Bankruptcy most likely, Marcus said. But the technology itself is sound, just corrupted by how Ryan used it. Someone will buy the assets, restructure, hire the employees back. They'll be okay. And Ryan? Federal prison, 25 years minimum, possibly more. Jessica will likely get 10 to 15. They'll both be old when they get out, if they get out. Claire nodded. It should have felt like victory. It should have felt like justice. Instead, she just felt tired. Come on, Victor said gently. Let's get you somewhere quiet. You've been through enough for one day. As they walked out of the Plaza Hotel, past the reporters shouting questions, past the police barricades, past the crowds of curious onlookers who'd heard something incredible was happening, Claire Morrison held her daughter in her arms and felt the weight of the last 9 months finally begin to lift. They'd won. Against all odds, despite everything, they'd actually won. But the cost had been higher than she could have imagined. 2 weeks after the plaza, Claire sat on Marcus's Connecticut estate floor with both daughters. Emma and Olivia together finally, identical twins, separated by death and deception, now reunited. They stacked blocks, babbling to each other while Daniel hummed in the kitchen. Marcus entered with newspapers. Morrison sentenced, 25 years federal prison. Barrett deported after 10 years. Morrison Tech bankrupt, 15 Billionai wiped out. Whistleblower Morrison awarded $47 million. $47 million. FBI reward for exposing corporate espionage. She was wealthy now. You won, Marcus said. Claire watched her daughters. Did I? Olivia lost 3 months with me. Emma lost 8. That's time I can never get back. The cost lived in her body. PTSD, nightmares where she relived the NICU, the courthouse, the assault. Hypervigilance that made her jump at sudden noises. She saw Ryan's face everywhere. Your Foster says it gets easier with time, Claire said. That eventually I'll sleep through the night. Do you believe it, her? Some days. Other days I think this is just who I am now. The woman who destroyed her husband's empire and will never fully trust anyone again. Marcus sat down. I'm sorry. For using you, spying on you, for everything. You also saved Olivia, Claire said, looking at the baby. You did terrible things, but you saved her life. I'm still figuring out how to feel about that. Doesn't balance out. No, but it's something. What will you do now? Marcus asked. Find somewhere normal, not a penthouse or mansion, just a regular house where my daughters can grow up without everyone knowing their story. Start over completely. You're welcome to stay here. I can't. This place is tied to Ryan and what happened. I need something clean, something that's just mine. She paused. But the girls should know their Uncle Marcus. He smiled. I'd like that. Later, a magazine arrived, Claire on the cover. From Victim to Victor, Claire Morrison's second act. The article detailed her congressional testimony about custody bias and corporate corruption. The Morrison Act, new legislation reforming family court procedures nationwide. Her phone rang. Prison collect call from FCI Victorville. Ryan Morrison's name on screen. Claire stared at it. Her finger hovered over accept. She could talk to him. Get closure. Then she pressed decline. Deleted the number from her log. That was the real power. Not revenge, not confrontation. Indifference. She went to the backyard where her daughters played. Emma showed Olivia a caterpillar. The morning sun warmed Claire's face. Ryan was in prison. Jessica was deported. Marcus was rebuilding. And Claire? Claire was finally breathing. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, she said softly to herself. But I learned something better. The best revenge isn't getting even. It's building a life so full of light that their darkness can't touch it anymore. She watched Emma help Olivia catch a bubble. And mine is just beginning. 1 year later, Claire Morrison lived in a modest Brooklyn townhouse with a small backyard. Not Park Slope, but Prospect Lefferts Gardens, where houses were cheaper and no one knew her story. She ran a small event planning business from home. Not corporate events, but fundraisers for nonprofits, charity galas for domestic violence organizations. Work that actually mattered. The twins were 2 years old, chasing bubbles in the sunshine. Emma was bold and adventurous. Olivia was cautious and thoughtful. Different in small ways, but identical in most. Claire loved them so fiercely it sometimes scared her. Daniel left for NYU that morning, studying law with plans to specialize in family court reform. You saved me from becoming him, Daniel said, hugging Claire goodbye. You saved yourself, Claire told him. I just gave you permission to be who you already were. Marcus visited every weekend for co-parenting. He and Claire weren't together romantically. Their relationship was too complicated, but they'd found respect, understanding, shared commitment to the girls. How are you really? Marcus asked one Saturday. Getting there, therapy helps. The girls help. Time, we'll see. A magazine arrived. Claire on the cover. From Victim to Victor, Claire Morrison's second act. About her advocacy work and congressional testimony that led to the Morrison Act, passed unanimously, representing one of the most significant family court reforms in decades. Her phone rang. Prison collect call from FCI Victorville. Claire looked at it for a long moment, then pressed decline, deleted the number. She went to the backyard where Emma was teaching Olivia about caterpillars and metamorphosis. Claire sat on the steps with coffee, watching them. Somewhere Ryan was in prison, Jessica was in Canada, Marcus was rebuilding his life. Daniel was starting college. The Morrison Act was helping families nationwide. And Claire was breathing. Finally, truly breathing. Sometimes people asked if she regretted what she'd done, if the cost had been worth it. The answer was complicated. She regretted that it had been necessary, regretted the trauma, the fear, the lost time. But did she regret fighting back? Never. You have to understand, she told a reporter, I didn't set out to become a symbol. I just wanted my daughters back. I wanted justice. I wanted Ryan to face consequences. Some say what you did was just as bad as what he did, the reporter said. Claire smiled without warmth. Those people didn't bury a child because they couldn't afford to save her. They didn't have their other child taken based on fabricated evidence. It's easy to judge from outside. It's different when you're being destroyed. Years later, when the twins were 12, Claire told them everything. How they were born early, how one had been hidden to save her life, how their father tried to destroy their mother. Did you hate him? Emma asked. Claire considered carefully. I don't know if it was hate. Hate is too simple. I was angry, hurt, betrayed, but hate would mean he still mattered emotionally. By the end, he didn't. He was just an obstacle to overcome. Do you think about him now? Olivia asked. Not often. Mostly I think about you two, about the life we've built. The past is the past. That was the truth Claire had learned to live by. 20 years after the plaza, Claire Morrison was 52, gray temples, laugh lines, living long enough to see both daughters graduate college and start careers as the strong women she'd hoped they'd become. Daniel married with 2 children of his own. Marcus, at 72, handed the stone foundation to Daniel. The Olivia Project had helped thousands of women escape abuse. Ryan Morrison died in prison at 68 from a heart attack. 20 years served. Daniel declined to claim the body. Prison buried him. Simple marker with name and dates. Claire felt nothing when she heard. Not relief, not satisfaction, just acknowledgement that a chapter was finally closed. How do you feel? Marcus asked. Complete, like a circle closing. On what would have been her 32nd anniversary, Claire sat in her backyard thinking about the woman she'd been. The one who'd set that anniversary table, believed in fairy tales. Do you miss her? Emma asked, visiting from her public defender work. The person you were before? Sometimes. She was softer, happier, more naive. She believed the world was fair. But she was wrong. She was wrong, but innocent in ways I'll never be again. I miss the ability to trust completely. But I don't wish to go back. Being her would mean being vulnerable in ways that nearly destroyed me. Mean not becoming the person who could protect you both. Emma leaned on her shoulder. I'm proud of you, Mom. We won together, Claire said. That night, Claire stood in her yard looking at stars. She thought about Ryan in his grave, Jessica in Canada, Marcus growing old, Daniel raising his family, her daughters building their lives. They say revenge is best served cold, she said to the stars. But I learned something better. The best revenge isn't making them suffer. It's proving they were wrong. Building a life so meaningful their cruelty becomes irrelevant. Wind rustled the trees. They tried to erase me, make me nothing. The scent of roses filled the air, but I transformed. I became proof you can walk through hell carrying light. She smiled, genuine, reaching her eyes. And my life, just beginning, always beginning. Claire walked back inside where Emma slept, and tomorrow waited with new joys and the complicated beauty of a life reclaimed. Lights went off, security armed, house settled. The ghost of who she'd been finally laid to rest. Claire Morrison didn't need her anymore. She'd learned to be her own hero.